We had a big conversion van that we jumped out of. And when you put on that tactical vest, you were like Pavlov's dog. Your heart rate went up about 20 beats because those tactical vests are heavier than a regular bulletproof vest. Like I would tell everybody on the way, you got to get your mind right. You got to forget about your wife, about your girlfriend. We got to focus on task at hand right now. What we're going to do, who's going to do what. This is how we're going to do it. And this is how we're going to come out of this with nobody getting hurt. That's the important part.
I'm Steve Murphy, DEA Special Agent retired and now host of the Game of Crimes podcast. If you've seen the Netflix series Narcos, then you know my story. I now bring you stories of heroism and bravery from our law enforcement and military heroes, and occasionally from the criminals that they faced. Welcome to Game of Crimes. Hey, gang, welcome back to this week's episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the morning. Just like every week, I got a special guest, but you're going to see exactly what I mean here in just a minute, because there's few of you that ever see me wear my West Virginia shirt. But I got a brother hillbilly on the show with me today. I can't wait for you to hear from this man, a legend in law enforcement throughout West Virginia. And this week's episode, now what we're going to talk about is we're going to cover how cocaine invaded America long before fentanyl, long before crack, even in the small town America. And, you know, I was a cop in Bluefield. We only had a 35-man department way back in the mid-'70s. And most of you guys know I went to high school and college in West Virginia, and that's what I call home. And I was a cop there for about 12 years before I joined DEA. But just because we're from smaller communities, that didn't keep us safe from the infestation of cocaine at all. So this week, we're talking about some law enforcement professionals who fought it even before anybody knew what was coming. My guest this week is a 26-year veteran of the Charleston, West Virginia Police Department. He retired in 1998. I think he might be the first person I've had on the show, and this is our 6th year on the show, that joined the police department before I did in 1975. Now, I'm not calling him old because I'm still afraid of him. But in that 26 years, he spent 19 years working narcotics. In 1988, he created what became known as the Metropolitan Drug Unit, or the Metro Drug Unit, which is still in existence today. And then when he retired from law enforcement, he didn't quit. And you know my old saying, just because we retire doesn't mean our oaths ever expire. He went on to work for the West Virginia Tax Department. He did code enforcement for Kanawha County, which is the county where Charleston, West Virginia is located. It's a history and a geographical lesson today. Anyway, eventually, I shouldn't even tried that. Eventually, he became the director of the Chuck Yeager Airport. That's the main airport in Charleston, West Virginia. It's the biggest airport in the state of West Virginia. He was the director out there. Gave that up finally, but then he decided he'd write a book. So he became a published author of a book called Snowstorm, Police, Politics, and Cocaine. So it is a true honor for me to welcome Mr. Terry Sayre to the show this week. Terry, brother, thank you so much for coming on Game of Crimes.
I appreciate it, Steve. It's great to hear from you. Good to see you wearing your West Virginia gear today.
There you go. We got our two of us. Y'all better look out. Y'all, yeah. You know, if you don't have more than that, you want to go get some backup if a fight starts.
Absolutely.
At least that's what we tell ourselves in our own minds, right?
Yes, sir.
No, it's good to have a brother West Virginia fellow on the show here. Everybody knows I call myself I'm a cross between a redneck and a hillbilly, and I'm fine with that. You're not going to offend me by calling me a hillbilly. I think you're just jealous that you're not. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, they probably are.
Yeah. I mentioned his book here, Snowstorm, and I want to put it up here so you can see it. And we'll put links on here where you can get it. You'll be able to find it on the Game of Crimes website, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, it's gameofcrimes.com. It's real hard to find. How did we meet? Well, there's a retired DEA agent that unfortunately I never met on the job named Jimmy Balcom. And before DEA, he was a deputy with Kanawha County Sheriff's Department. And I just told you where that's located. He reached out to me, I think it was on Facebook. And I'll be honest with you, folks, I don't check that direct messaging thing like maybe, I don't know, sometimes once every couple months. But for whatever reason, I looked at it and I saw Jimmy's message and I thought, heck yeah, I'd love to have a fellow West Virginian here on the show. I haven't had a lot. We had, of course, his name escapes me, Terry, but the guy who came up through the ranks of the West Virginia State Police and became the director at one point, worked a lot of undercover narcotics. I'm sure you know who I am.
Tom Kirk.
Who's
Tom
that?
Kirk. Tom Kirk.
There you go. Tom, and he has some great stories. He's the guy, folks, if you haven't listened to that, you should go back and listen to it, because while he's working narcotics in the West Virginia State Police, which is only about 80 hours a week, he got his law degree. I mean, wow. I'm one of those guys that it took me 11 years to get that 4-year degree from Bluefield State, but got it.
I understand.
A lot went on during those 11 years. But just want to shout out to Jimmy. Thank you so much for reaching out to me, brother. Can't thank you enough for the introduction to Terry. Brought back so many good memories. All three of us have a lot of acquaintances in law enforcement. One of our best friends between all of us that passed away a few years ago. Miss him a lot, Jerry Reinhardt. So anyway, Jimmy, thank you very much. So let me shut up now, Terry, because we've been going for like 30 minutes and I haven't let you talk yet.
Oh, no problem. Probably the best Jimmy Balcom story I could tell you is we were working one evening, and it was in the wintertime. Jimmy he had a coat, and it looked like he had a glove on, but the glove was actually a monkey, and he operated the monkey through his real hand. And we went out, and Jimmy made like 12 or 13 buys that evening with that alleged monkey on his arm. So he made it jump around in people's homes and got everyone's attention, had all the drug dealers actually scared of it. And it was fake. So it was just, we screamed and laughed over that. But that's Jimmy's sense of humor. That's just how he rolled.
I love it. So what I'm hearing here is I'm going to have to get Jimmy Balcom on here so we can talk about some of his stories.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, we worked together for years, and then he joined the DEA and went on to bigger and better things. But he's just down to earth, good guy.
Brother, it's nice you say that, Terry, big and better things. I don't know that that's absolutely true. I was a city cop, I was a railroad cop, and I was a federal agent. The most fun I ever had was in uniform as a city cop. Got in trouble a few times, but that was fun.
Well, it was always fun to dodge the internal affairs. So that was just part of the game of being the police back in the day, I guess.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that a little bit because this book you wrote it's phenomenal. I read it, ladies and gentlemen. I read it, half of it on an airplane and the other half coming back to Orlando. It's one of those that if you've ever been curious as to how law enforcement fought narcotics before we had all this great technology that's available today, this book walks you through it. I mean, it's almost like a primer for Narcotics 101. So highly recommended here. So Terry, let's just get into your background, brother. Where'd you grow up? What were your family dynamics, brothers and sisters? Was there anybody else in law enforcement, going to college, playing sports, that kind of thing?
Sure. I grew up in a small town called Dunbar, which is just beside of Charleston there in the Kanawha Valley. My cousin, Gary Slater, he joined the state police before I joined the Charleston Police Department, but my dad drove a laundry truck. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I never had anybody else in the family besides my cousin Gary, who went into law enforcement. I didn't grow up even thinking about being a cop till I was working my way through college, working in a grocery store, trying to get a 4-year degree. Of course, it only took me 6 years to get a 4-year degree. At West Virginia State College, I graduated from there after I graduated from Dunbar High School. But I played a lot of baseball when I was a kid. Rode a city bus to North Charleston, actually, when I was 9 or 10 years old. I played Little League, and nobody put a kid on a bus today. But I rode a bus there and rode a bus home in the evening just to have a place to play organized sports. It was a lot of fun, made a lot of good friends. I loved growing up in Dunbar. It was a fun little town. Our street didn't get paved till I think I was in the 9th grade. That's how it was. And we're in the city limits. That's how how things went back then. But we always rode a school bus, and I have a brother and a sister. My mother's still alive. She's 95 years old. She's still rolling, so that gives me hope
Good for her.
for some more years. So I'm just, I had a good time back then.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how would you describe yourself as a kid? Were you the athlete, the troublemaker, the class clown? How would you call yourself?
Oh, I'd like to make a lot of jokes, but I like to play baseball a lot. That's what we did. We played from daylight to dark all summer, all spring, in the fall. We played sports in the neighborhood. I played organized basketball a couple years for the junior high, but where we lived was we were in the city limits, but you had to ride a city bus. We didn't have a car until I think I was in the ninth grade, so getting back and forth was hard. The school was at the other end of town, and so I just stuck with baseball. Had a lot of fun doing that, and enjoyed myself a lot during the summers.
Any coal miners in your family?
Absolutely. I had an uncle and two cousins that were coal miners up in Pocahontas County, and actually they got their jobs, my uncle and my cousin, because they were good left-handed pitchers. And at that time, the coal companies had baseball teams, and every Sunday they would travel around to different coal facilities, coal mine communities, and that was their entertainment on Sunday, to have coal companies play each other's teams. So that's how they got their jobs originally.
Wow. Did you ever work in the mines?
No, I went there and a couple times up in Greenberg County where they lived, and figured out I'm too claustrophobic to go down in that place.
Brother, I'm with you.
It's a lot of close quarters, and I admire people that have the nerve to do that. I never had the nerve to do that one, though.
I'm with you, man. It's I'm first generation non-coal miner in the Murphy group. I could maybe work on a tipple or work above ground, but there's no way I'd go underground.
No, sir, not at all.
And my wife, her family, her dad, and both of her brothers were coal miners, so it's in our families here. What'd you major in college?
Business administration. I started out at West Virginia Tech. I went there 1 year, wasted a year of my life up there. Started out in mathematics for whatever reason. And then I transferred to West Virginia State, and I saw my friends that were in business that were having a lot of fun. So I said, what am I doing in math? I'm in like third year differential equations. This stuff's hard. So I decided I need to get into business administration. So I ended up getting a degree in business administration management.
What was your plan after graduating college, or did you even have one?
I really didn't have one. I was 20 years old one time. I made a mistake. I got a girl pregnant, got married. I got married at a very young age. It's hard to raise a child and have a full-time job and be a full-time student, but you can do it. I did it. It's hard. Actually, I ran into two Charleston police officers work security at the store where I worked at, and I started talking to them, and the city had a program that if you had a college degree, they would pay you more at that time. So I was actually the first Charleston policeman to have a college degree, and which was good in some ways. And then I got harassed for having a degree in a lot of other ways.
Oh, yeah.
By some of the older guys that had words for that. And so I made it through. It was all right. Those guys talked me into being a policeman, so I joined.
Wow. That wasn't a childhood dream or anything, huh?
No, out of, I think there were 11 or 12 people from Charleston in my class. And there was only 2 or 3 of us in the Charleston class that didn't have a relative on the police department. Most everybody had an uncle, a dad, a grandfather, a cousin, had relatives on there. So I didn't, but it all worked out for me.
So you started in 72.
Yes, sir.
I started in 75 in Bluefield. We only had a 35-man department, and about 50% of the department had either a 2-year degree or they were working towards their 4-year degree. And at that point, the city didn't offer any incentive, but it was unique, I guess, if you look at it per capita, based on the number of personnel you have, sworn personnel, that you had that high percentage with college educations or working towards their degrees.
Yeah, a lot of guys after I had got my degree got degrees in criminal justice down at West Virginia State. There was a lot of them went through on the GI Bill and got paid to go by the government. So they worked that all out. There was probably 10 or 15 other people after I did successfully complete my degree.
Yeah, we finally got to where the city did pay. Let's see I think it was they paid you $1 per hour extra per month. So if you had your degree, that was I think it was $128 extra a month, which doesn't sound like a lot of money now, but when I started out at $9,600 a year. So that's a nice little bump to go along with it.
Oh, we had that program, and you're right. I actually took a pay cut from the grocery store I was working at to become a police officer. I made less money to become a policeman. I'm just telling you that's how it was.
What the heck is wrong with us?
I don't know. I got there and then I figured out, well, this pension's a pretty good deal. If I can last to then, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
So that's the only way you could get the city back is live a long time. That's the way I look at it.
Understood.
For all the low pay and all the whatever happened.
We'll call it aggravation.
Aggravation, yeah, that's a good word.
Did you consider any other agencies besides Charleston PD?
One time, my partner and I went to Detroit. We interviewed with the DEA, but they were going through a certain phase where they were doing some DEI hiring, and we didn't fit in right then at that point in time. I'll put it that way.
There's a lot of people from West Virginia that end up in Detroit. And I don't know if you've ever seen that Patrick Swayze movie where he was, I think he was in Detroit. I don't know if he was a cop up there or what, but he started having problems that he couldn't deal with. And he called a bunch of his relatives from West Virginia to come up and brought a bus and all that wild stuff. I never knew in fact, my wife's got a very, very close cousin that we still visit with, and they moved to Detroit and lived up there their whole business lives. And then when they retired, they moved back to West Virginia. But what's that? Do you know what that attraction is to Detroit?
I didn't have one. We ended up there once or twice on drug deals. It started in Charleston, ended up in Detroit, and when we left Charleston, it wasn't very cold. When we got to Detroit, we see everybody walking down the street in long trench coats, toboggans, gloves. We're like, dang, go on, man. We're definitely underdressed for this climate. So yeah, I just remember it being colder and all get out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. How big was Charleston? How many sworn officers did you have in Charleston when you joined?
When I joined, my class made 110 policemen. The city at that time had about 100,000 people in the city limits proper. And Kanawha County had about 250,000 people at that time. Today, I think those numbers are down. I think Charleston's down around 45,000 people.
Wow.
And Kanawha County's under 200,000 people. So, but the police department, I think, still has a lot more policemen.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 150 to 180, maybe more.
Wow. I know the answer to this question. I'm acting like I don't. So you went to the basic law enforcement academy at the West Virginia State Police Academy, right?
Correct. I was in the 9th basic class.
9th? Wow.
9th, yes.
I don't remember what my number was. So you went in 72?
Yes, sir.
And I got hired in 75, but I didn't go to the academy till early 76. So probably wasn't a lot higher than that, huh?
No, I think they probably did a couple classes a year, maybe at that time, during that time period.
So when you're in the academy, you guys were living there at nighttime, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got to go home on weekends, maybe.
Right.
And now there's always funny stories that happen in the police academies with the cadets. Is there any that come to mind that we could get a chuckle out of?
Oh, I guess during the training, self-defense training, Legursky broke somebody's leg, I think, first day. Maybe that was funny. But I learned never to volunteer to be the subject in any of the self-defense training. So Sergeant Legursky gave me the knife. And he said, throw the knife between your hands like you're going to stab me. And As soon as I let go of the knife with one hand, he hit me and almost knocked me out with one smack. And he was a unique character. He was a good guy, but he wanted to show you that he was impervious to pain. So he would smoke cigarettes and then put them behind his ear and while they're still lit, and let them go out behind his ear and stand there and have a conversation with you like his hair's not burning and nothing's happening. That's just how he was. Yeah, Legursky, Carvel Legursky. That's how he was. He was hardcore.
He was a legend. He was
Yes,
not
sir.
somebody you want to cross.
No, he ended up being chief of police of Beckley later on. I worked with him down there.
Yeah. Did he remember you?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. When I went through, and you and I had a pre-call several weeks ago about this and talked about different people we know. Remember George Young with the state police?
Yes.
So when I went through the academy, he was a sergeant there. He eventually became the commandant of the academy. And when I joined DEA, I'm living down in Princeton, 100 miles away from the office after I graduated the academy. And you still have a couple months before you report to your first post, which for me was Miami in 87. And the boss in Charleston, he said, listen, he said, you've been a cop for a long time down the southern part of the state. So rather than drive to Charleston every day or get an apartment or a hotel up here, he said, here's a government car. He said, I want you to go around and interview with the chiefs and the sheriffs and the detectives and find out what the different drug problems are within the different cities and towns and counties and write up reports. And it's basically an intel gathering thing. Well, I knew most of the cops down in that area in southern West Virginia, not all of them, but a lot of them. I was shooting competition back then. So you had a lot of friends from that. And so I called the first time I went up. I mean, Connie and I we didn't have a pot to pee in back then. We lived in a mobile home and she was working as a nurse and I didn't have the money for a hotel, certainly. So I called George. I think he was a captain back then. And I told him what was going on. I said, you by any chance have a single bed I could use for a night or two a week? And he's like, come on up. We'll find you a bed. The regular listeners here on Game of Crimes hear me talk about the camaraderie, the brotherhood, and the sisterhood in law enforcement. And that's the kind of way it was. It's you look out for each other, you take care of each other.
Yeah, we all worked together. I mean, we worked with all the local police departments in Kanawha County, Dunbar, Nitro, South Charleston, St. Albans, as well as the state police would have 2 or 3 different guys. We would work with them all the time, work with their local detachments and the DEA, the ATF. It was really like nobody was special. Everybody was on the same level. Everybody treated everybody equally. There wasn't a whole lot of egos. Of course, you had to have an ego to work drug cases. I always said you had to have that competitive drive. You know, everybody had that competitive drive, wanting to do the deal, get the dope off the street, whatever you want to call it, solve the case.
Yeah, my wife, a lot of people say, well, all cops have type A personalities. I don't think that I do, but my wife says I do. I don't know. Maybe that's part of what gives you or qualifies you for a type A, since you don't admit it.
I like to look at myself as not having one, but I'm sure I do. I just was driven, I guess. I love the job and I love being around. I love the people I worked with. We were all really close. I mean, they were like an extended family, Jimmy Balcom and all those guys. And we're still friends to today. And you can't put any money value on any of that.
Absolutely. Agree 100%. So you graduate the academy and your first day at the police department, you're now a sworn gun toter. You're there to protect all the citizens and property in Charleston, West Virginia. What was that like that first day?
Well, it was a little scary. Just the discipline back then at the police department was pretty strict. If roll call started at 7 a.m., if you were there at 7:01 a.m., the door was locked and you got suspended for 3 days for being late. So
whoa,
you learned to be on time. My first assignment was over on the west side where men are men, and you better be one. There were tons of beer joints. We had probably the worst project in the city. Orchard Manor was there. So I don't know. You just showed up and did the deal. Like I tell people, there's nothing wrong with being afraid, but you still have to suck it up and do what you got to do, whether you're afraid or not.
Yeah. Sounds like you had a few tussles back then.
Oh yeah, I think as the mob guys would say, I made my bones in Orchard Manor when I hit some guy in the nose like at 3 o'clock in the morning. At 3 o'clock in the morning over there was probably 200 people on the street.
Wow.
So I get in a fight, hit some guy with I had these SAP gloves, and they're probably not issued today, but
No.
I hit him right in the nose, and it just exploded, and the crowd was like very impressed. So I knew after that I probably wouldn't have a whole lot of fights after that. Yeah.
Well, and that's it. They just, I've talked before about, we used to have on Saturday nights there in Bluefield, we called it the Hog Stomp, but it was a country and western dance. And you get all these hillbillies coming down from the mountains, that, especially coming out of McDowell County. They're from areas where there is no law enforcement, and they're pretty independent. They're proud of being independent, and they're not going to let anybody tell them what to do, including the police officer. It was a lot of times you had to. I lived in the city limits, so there was times we'd have to go home and change uniforms because they were either bloody or dirty, or you'd rip the knees out of your pants from fighting.
Yeah, it was the best man contest sometimes over on the west side. And thing about people on the west side though, that if you had an altercation or fight, they just let it go. Nobody complained on the police over there.
Yeah.
Other parts of town, not so much. But over there, if you had a fight, you had a fight, and if you saw them the next day, they'd laugh and say, "That was a good one, wasn't it?" Yeah, I guess it was a good one. It was okay for me. I didn't go to the hospital.
Well, and it was the same way in Bluefield, because those people, you'd bring them in, you throw them in a drunk tank, let them sober up, put them in a jail cell. Next morning, they'd bond out. And if they were bonding out as you're getting off shift, then they'd see you. They're like, "Boy, that was a good time. I'll see you next weekend." Oh, my goodness.
It was a way of life. It was just a way of life. That's all you could call it.
It was. It was. So during that time, did you see or realize that Charleston had some kind of a drug problem, illegal drug problem?
Yeah, a few times I had, when I was a rookie, I worked a few times by myself downtown, and I got a few calls where one Sunday morning in particular, I went to the back end of town, and on a deceased person call, like 7 o'clock on Sunday morning, which is never good. But anyway, I ended up there. A girl was overdosed on heroin. She still had the needle hanging out of her arm. Of course, everybody at the house told me she was a diabetic, but that was my first real experience with seeing somebody overdose from heroin. But saw that a few times, saw people on the streets, and you figured out, hey, there's a real problem here.
So was heroin the problem, or was it heroin and something else?
When I first started working drugs, or in the early 70s, mid 70s, it was heroin. Heroin was a problem. Then they started taking all the cases to federal court, and the federal judge started handing out time like free lunch. So people started getting 30 years and 45 years and 60 years. And that kind of put an end to that cycle of the heroin. But you always had the marijuana, and then cocaine started coming on big then. So when I started working drugs, that was the main thing. It was just coke, but you always had pot cases. And
yeah,
I found out heroin was more cyclical. It might come back in 5 years. You might see some heroin addicts, and you'd always try to stomp that out as fast as you could because you knew you had all the other crimes that go along with that, all the larcenies, the burglaries, robberies, things of that nature, where people can't make enough money to support their habits.
I never saw any heroin cases in Bluefield. Not to say it wasn't there, but it was weed and cocaine. That was our biggest thing, in pills. A lot of pills going around. Speed was real popular back then. But in Charleston, were you seeing a lot of violence associated with the drug trafficking at that time?
Not like it turned into when crack started, but there was some violence with heroin because you had a lot of money. You always had somebody bringing it in from out of state, usually from New York or Detroit, Columbus, Cleveland, all the bigger cities. I think the first undercover case I worked was a heroin case on a guy that was flying into Charleston from New York. He'd fly in on Friday, sell heroin all weekend, fly back to New York on Sunday. I got introduced to him, bought some heroin, and then we ended up arresting him and tried to take down the local network at that time.
Was it, were they just robbing each other or were they actually killing each other?
Both, a little bit of both. Sometimes robberies, unfortunately, turn into somebody getting shot, somebody getting killed over the drugs. Anytime you have a lot of money on the street, there's always violence that goes with it.
How did you become interested in working narcotics as your sole mission?
I didn't start out having any interest in it. I started out in patrol. Then I went to the TAC squad, which was a plainclothes unit where we did a lot of stakeouts, crimes in progress, catch people in burglaries, B&Es, stealing cars, things of that nature. Then did that for a couple of years, and then some guys I work with got caught drinking on duty. Mm-mm. And the chief, he created that unit, so he got upset with them, suspended them, and then later on, he just decided to change everybody out. I think the chief asked my partner one time, who became my partner in the drug unit. He was in the TAC squad with me. He got in trouble for drinking on duty, and the chief asked him, said, "Who drinks the most out here at night, the TAC squad or the Uniform Patrol Division?" And my buddy, he's already got his 30-day rep. He looks at the chief. He says, "Well, chief, don't you think they got us a little bit outnumbered out here at night? So it's probably the patrol division." So the chief gave me his time off, threw him out of the office, and everybody had a laugh at that later. We did.
Well, that just brings back memories. And I won't mention names, but I hadn't been on the department too long, but was working with another guy, and we had a 2-man unit that worked 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. And we rode together just to back up everybody else and try to get into whatever you could get into. And one night he took me up to the FOP lodge, and another police officer came up. I had been a college intern at the department, so I knew these guys already. But they're wondering if they can trust you because you haven't made your bones yet. And so the first thing he did was pull a half a gallon of, I don't know, some cheap whiskey out of the drop ceiling and poured a drink for all three of us. And it's a test to see if you're going to take a drink, because if you do in front of them, now they got something on you.
In Charleston, they took you to the cemetery. If you were downtown, you went to the cemetery downtown and had a drink, had a test. Or on the west side, you'd go to the record service or the farmer's market or Kmart parking lot somewhere. Yeah. You know, everybody had their different areas.
I'm glad it wasn't just us.
Oh, no, it was everywhere.
So how did you get into narcotics then?
Well, I left the TAC squad. I got transferred back to patrol, and I'm just minding my own business one day. And the drug unit sergeant, he calls and wants to meet. And he said, "You interested in coming to the drug unit?" And I'd made a few drug cases when I worked the TAC squad just by accident, because I'd went one time for about a year without a haircut and had shaved, so I looked the part. And I said, "Well, I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, I'll give it a try, I guess." And he said, "Well, it's 4 to 12 evening shift, and you get a undercover car and all this." And I thought, well, that's better than riding around in the band director's outfit. So anyway, I just gave it a shot and ended up doing it and ended up loving it, I guess. So I stayed there forever.
You called it, what'd you call your uniform?
Band director outfit.
Never heard it referred to as that.
They dress you up in a band director outfit and send you out on the street and expect you to come back looking like you started the shift.
Yeah, that's great. How many officers did you guys have assigned to narcotics at that time?
When I started, there were 6. There was a sergeant and one detective worked day shift, and 4 of us worked evening shift. They were still in the police department. A lot of it is like the military, so the change was slow, change was hard. So the sergeant and one detective worked 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., and we worked 4 to 12. So we only saw the sergeant one day a week, which was, hell, that was a good gig. And, we were left to our own devices.
Yeah,
that was a good thing. So
it could be good or bad.
Good or bad. He would stay over about one evening a week just to let us know that he's still alive and you're still in the police department. And Like I said, they'd go to work at 4 o'clock. There'd be 3 or 4 of us, 25-year-old average age. You'd check out $400 or $500, go to bars, hang out, shoot pool, try to buy drugs, hook up with informants, and not drink too much and don't get in trouble. So what could go wrong? All that stuff. And nothing could ever go wrong, of course. 20-some-year-old guys with guns and badges and alcohol and no supervision but your own conscience. So it was crazy times sometimes.
When you're in there in those pool rooms or bars or wherever you're at, how much cover do you have? How many are you there solo, or do you have a backup, or do you have the whole team?
Well, you usually go with your partner, or sometimes you go by yourself, but you didn't have anything. It was fly by the seat of your pants back then. There wasn't any manuals on how to make drug cases. They sent you to the DEA school in D.C. for 2 weeks to learn how to do this or do that, do surveillance, things of that nature. But it was all trial and error, basically, in the beginning.
On the job training, right?
Yes, it was. And let your conscience be your guide.
I could just, I'm looking at your face here on the screen. I'm thinking we could probably go down so many rabbit holes with that one statement there, but I'm not sure the statute of limitations has run out on everything.
Just try to stay out of trouble. That was the main thing. If you try to buy drugs every day, and hey, we figured out the best part, but the easiest way was to have informants, and you try to develop informants. And I mean, I could sit on a house, and you could sit on a house and watch it for days, and if you didn't know what was going on or didn't have somebody on the inside, you were just wasting your time sometimes.
Absolutely. Were you guys working with the feds back then?
A little bit, yeah. We started working with Jerry Reinhardt and Fred Gregory. They were the first 2 DEA agents there in the state of West Virginia.
Yeah.
Fred was Iraq and Jerry was the other agent there. But then the city of Charleston assigned somebody there to work out of the DEA office and the state police. That's where I met Tom Kirk. He worked out of the DEA office there in Charleston. But, 2 guys couldn't do anything for the whole state of West Virginia without having other agencies helping them. So,
right.
We learned from them. They learned from us. And it was very beneficial. But like I said, we were all just close friends.
Was Fred Gregory, is he from West Virginia?
No, I don't think so. He wasn't from West Virginia. Jerry graduated from Marshall University, and he was from northern West Virginia.
Yeah, yeah. You probably know this, but his brother was on the Marshall University plane that crashed and killed the whole football team.
Yeah.
It's a terrible day, terrible day. Did you guys get along with the feds, or were they a pain in the butt?
No, we got along with those guys great. We went through some ups and downs with the DEA office later on. They sent in a couple people that were just difficult to work with. Instead of being equals, they wanted to be our boss, and that doesn't work too well.
I'm shaking my head here. Just,
I had enough bosses at the city of Charleston. I didn't need it. I just needed somebody to work with, not to work for.
Exactly.
Sometimes we had the best case. Sometimes they had the best case. You just never knew how it was going to shake out. But sometimes it's not about the agencies working together. It's about the people that are there. If the people that are there don't get along, then it's just not going to happen. I don't care what you say.
Being a local cop and a railroad cop for 12 years before becoming a Fed, I didn't even know. I'd never heard of DEA, to be quite honest about with you when I first heard about it. But we had worked with the Bureau, ATF. We'd worked with them, and the Marshals. And ATF was fantastic. Loved those guys. The Marshals were excellent. In fact, I got one of those positions, what they call it, WAEs, when actually employed, where you just transport prisoners and things like that. It was a little extra few dollars in your pocket. But the Bureau was always a challenge. We didn't even have an office in southern West Virginia. We had a 2-man office in Beckley that would come down. One of their responsibilities is investigating civil rights complaints against made when a police officer has been accused of a civil rights complaint, they have to investigate it. And when it's the FBI agent that that you actually have loaned your bulletproof vest to before so they could go out and do a dangerous mission, and then they come back to read you your rights, it's a little bit hard to stomach. But having said all that, and I'm certainly not bad-mouthing the entire Bureau, because it's usually either people with their egos out of control or the higher-ups that have the issues. But when I joined DEA and became a Fed, just like you, I was aware of that attitude that the Feds can portray to state and locals. And I think that benefited me because I think I was able to see it from both sides, so that we were able to work, and people call me at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm rolling out at 3:15 to go do whatever it is they need to do. And it just helps that camaraderie. It builds that unity amongst the group that you're working with. I'm not tooting my own horn here. It's just things to me that make common sense. And that's when things work, is when you use common sense.
Yeah, I know from my experience, most of the time, if we were going to be out on what we would call big case, or sometimes even small cases, the DEA guys would go out with us every day. The ATF guys, I couldn't even think of a better group than the ATF guys. That's where one of my friends back then, Gary Sheridan, came from, was ATF.
Yeah.
He worked a couple drug cases for us. I mean, he was just super nice guy. We all hung out together off duty, on duty. I mean, we worked out together. We were together every day doing something, and along with Jerry Reinhardt and his guys. And when Jerry left, got transferred out after the case on the mayor, things changed a little bit, but things came back around. They sent a different person in to be in charge, and it all went back to what I call normal, I guess. But there is a rough patch there, but it just happens.
Yeah, Gary is that's Mr. GQ right there.
Absolutely. For sure. For sure.
He was, for the folks that have been listening to the show for a while, Gary Sheridan was partners with Javier Pena in Colombia when I first reported down there. And because of Gary's time in West Virginia, we had a lot of common friends in law enforcement, and Gary and I got to be friends right off the bat. And then he got promoted and moved up to Bear and Key, and that's how I became partners with Javier Pena.
Gary was good at making friends with women. He was good at developing female informants.
And so now match that up with the reputation that Javier Pena's got from the Narco series on Netflix.
I still put Gary probably 1 or 1A. Like I said, we would meet in the mornings at 7:00 and work out. We'd go run, or when I was a runner, we'd run for 3 or 4 miles, go to the Y, play racquetball, come to work at 10:00, work till whenever, go out and drink till whenever, and be back at it at 7 the next morning.
Yeah.
So it was just a cycle.
I've said it on here a lot that being a narcotics agent, it's not a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. It's a lifestyle.
No, it is, absolutely. And if it's not like that, then you're not going to be successful.
Right.
You had to put in the time. You couldn't cheat it. I'll just put it that way.
Now, somewhere along the line, you came up with this idea for a metro drug unit. How did that come about, and how was it received when you first proposed it?
Oh, gosh, that was when crack cocaine started rearing its ugly head there in Charleston, like 87, 88. We had the murder rate in the city doubled. We used to have about, on average, 12 murders a year. I think we had like 24, 26 murders when crack hit.
Wow.
And it was in all the cities there in the valley. And so we sort of had an informal task force. We had Larry Dotson from the county worked there, and a couple others from the other cities. And we met with a couple of the U.S. Attorney's Office, talked about the new sentencing guidelines, and then they brought up this grant that was available for overtime for task force. So we decided to form a formalized task force, and then we had to. I got the chief, and we went around and met with all the other mayors and chiefs of the smaller towns, and and pretty much convinced them to sign on. It wasn't easy, but it worked out. I'm proud of that. I'm glad it's still in operation today, and that's a long time for something to stay in law enforcement, because usually you get a new chief, you get new ideas, new, better and improved is what I always would call it, whether it was or not. But and they always were about changing things to fit their mold. But this has seemed to have lasted, so I'm happy about that. That was a good thing.
What year did you start that?
1987. I think it was December 1987, right after our first crack cocaine case against the students down at West Virginia State College.
Wow. And then were you in charge of that unit or somebody else?
No, I was in charge of it. Charleston, we had 6 of us from Charleston, and then 1 from all the other 4 cities and the county, and then the state police. They weren't formal members, but they had somebody that worked out of our office every day. So they were all good guys, really.
Yeah. What was the name of the first trooper came in?
Probably Gary Bain, or Willie Sutton or Pete Sutton worked with them. Tom Kirk, like I said earlier, I met him over there at the DEA office, but we worked with the guys out in the detachments to start out with, Cross Lanes, and they had a detachment in Eastern Kanawha County. Out at Cross Lanes, you had Bill Cordell, Art Angus, Mark, I can't think of Mark's last name, but just a lot of different guys. We'd call them when we're serving search warrants and things of that nature, and they would call us if they had a drug case. I mean, looking back on it, I think state police BCI that did drugs back then, I think they only had 5 or 6 guys working the whole state.
Yeah.
So we had 12 people there in Kanawha County. So we had a pretty good pool of manpower to help other departments. They helped us, we helped them. So
Absolutely.
it was just a back and forth.
Yeah, that was a great concept you came up with, and it works in other locations as well. So obviously this one, if it's still in existence all these years later, you done good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I hope I did.
Let's see. We already talked about the egos. I mean, initially, did you have some kind of a vetting process, or did you know who you wanted from the different agencies to come into your task force?
Well, in the beginning, sometimes the chief of one of them small towns would give you one of their problem children. So that made for not a good relationship sometimes. But for the most part, we ended up with really good guys from the other departments. I get along with all of them. We made do with whatever.
Isn't it amazing how agencies do that? That they, instead of dealing with the issue themselves, they want to pawn it off on somebody else, and now you worry about them.
Yeah, but most of those people don't fit in, so they don't have that work ethic or that drive or the personality that it takes to do those kind of cases and to deal with informants every day. I mean, it's like dealing with the informant. It's like raising another kid. I mean, they always have problems. They're always needy, and there's always something going on. They always have something that they're looking to you to solve.
Yep. In your book, you described this one case that the FBI office in Huntington was involved with, and then you guys got involved. I think an office in Ohio was involved as well.
Yes.
You do a great job of laying out the case and making it. I'm a visual person, and as I'm reading your book, I can visualize in my mind what's going on. But then when you get to the end, did the Charleston FBI office ever get involved, and why not if they didn't?
They did at the very end when the FBI had the wiretap on the guy in Huntington, and then it implicated 2 people in Charleston that we weren't even aware about at that point in time. We just I just tell everybody we just kind of accidentally ran into their case. We had went to a small town of Nitro, which is right outside of Charleston, one Friday to buy like a quarter ounce of coke, and I had $10,000 checked out, a flash roll. I had that money checked out on another case. It didn't transpire that day, so I got my partner and went down to Nitro, met with the informant, And we decided just take that $10,000 flash roll and either scare the guy and just tell him we want to buy some ounces. And lo and behold, he calls that guy in Huntington, and we're getting ready to do a 4-ounce Coke deal with him the next day at the Charleston Marriott. Of course, we were going to rip him off, arrest him. And I got a call from Jerry Reinhardt that morning. He said, "Hey, Terry, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm just sitting up here at the Marriott waiting on these two knuckleheads from Huntington to show up." I said we're going to rob them. Of course, I meant we were going to arrest them.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Well, can you let that money walk?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess." I said, "But this can't be some DEA lie. I got to have that money back Monday or Tuesday." I said, "You know what I'm saying?" He said, "No, man." He said, "The FBI's got a case up on these guys. They got a Title III, and they can't get anybody in on them undercover." So that's how we ended up getting in on their case. They came to the Marriott. We bought that Coke, and then later on did another pretty substantial deal for some Coke with them at the Huntington Mall, and then later on did another bigger deal with them down in Huntington and arrested them. And then the FBI down there served a search warrant on their house, got $200,000 or $300,000 and a lot of Coke, and it was a very successful case. That case led to forming the task force in Charleston to end up getting the case that involved the mayor, former prosecutor, after the FBI saw that we could actually do a case, I guess. But we hadn't worked with the FBI until then, really. They were always the boogeyman. Some of them were nice guys, but they wore 3-piece suits and worked 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, and we had a different lifestyle. I just put it that way.
Well, there's and throw a little teaser out there. My guest here on the show next week is a former Pomona City police officer in California who the Bureau decided to come after over. Honestly, I think it was, I've read his book and done a lot of research on it. I think it was 2 female agents who lacked any experience in law enforcement, became overzealous, manipulated the grand jury, manipulated the U.S. Attorney's Office. Sounds like they lied under oath, failed to turn over discovery or hid it in amongst other documents. I mean, it's really suspicious what went on. And he ended up having to go through 2 federal trials over this. Well, I'm not going to tell you what happened. So, because I want you folks to come next week and listen to the story. But, and again, I've got tons of friends that are FBI current and former, love them to death, brothers and sisters. So not stereotyping the whole agency. It's just when people that lack the experience that think they're more important than what they really are, think they know more than what they know, just it leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So that's what happens.
A funny FBI story for me.
All right.
Was Jerry Reinhardt calls one day and he says, "Hey," he said, "why don't we have a cookout at Coonskin Park and invite the FBI guys we're working with on this task force? And we can all get to know each other better and everything." And I said, "I don't know, Jerry, man." I said, "We're going to mix alcohol here with them guys." And I said, "About anything can happen." And he's like, "Well, no, it'll be all right, Terry. It'll be all right. Trust me." And I'm like, "Okay." So Friday afternoon, we're at the park having a good time, playing cards, drinking, talking. And I had a female detective who worked for me that one of these FBI guys thought that he liked, but this other friend of mine thought he liked her. So next thing you know, there's a big fight at the picnic shelter. It ends up down in the parking lot, and we all end up in the gravel. And of course, that ruins the picnic immediately, of course. So come Monday morning, I make a point to show up at Jerry's office first thing Monday morning. I said, "Hey, Jerry, how'd the cookout go for you Friday?" He said, "Damn, man, I knew you were right." He said, "That was a terrible one." And I said, "Yeah," I said, "that one guy got an FBI guy that got sacrificed." I said, "I actually liked him." I said, "That was some crazy stuff, man." I said, "I tried to tell you it wasn't going to work." He said, "I know, I'll listen next time."
But that was over a girl. That wasn't.
No, it was over nothing but a girl. It wasn't related to no case, no them stealing your case or anything. It was just straight up funny stuff.
Yeah, that is funny. You had mentioned informants a while ago. So, well, first of all, I want to ask you, when you were initially in the drug unit and as it continued to grow, what size quantities were you buying off the guys on the streets?
Gosh, in the beginning, it was just whatever you could get. The heroin, I was just buying dime bags or $100 worth or whatever the packets of the decks, they called them back then, whatever they were selling. Coke, it was always gram, 8 ball, quarter ounce. Because we had limited money. You couldn't let a lot of money walk. If we got up into buying an ounce or so, we'd have to get DEA's money, things of that nature. But we could get any amount of flash roll just about. I could go to the chief and he'd write a letter to the city treasurer, tell him I need an X amount of money, and I could go get $100,000, $250,000 flash roll. I've had that much out before, and that was easy to do. But you always had to copy the money, have 2 people guard the money all the time, and never let the bad guys know when you were going to show them the money. It always had to be a surprise, because if it wasn't, you're going to get robbed.
Yeah.
But as far as the quantities go, it just stayed about the same over time, just because of the money constraints. You always try to flip somebody, rip somebody off and flip them to the next level. And those are some of the best days. Just maybe starting out on a Friday, buy a quarter pound of pot off somebody, flip him to a guy that's got 5 pounds, flip him to another guy that's got 20 pounds. And we did that a couple times. Then by Friday evening, you're flipping that guy into getting a couple guys with a couple 100 pounds. So those are good days. Those are real, where you can actually see what you've done, because a lot of days you'd go out and spend time on the street trying to make buys or doing different things like that. And they didn't work out. They didn't work out all the time. And somebody asked me, why didn't you put cases in your book that weren't successful? And I'm like, well, why would I put that in there? Nobody wants to read about a failure. You try to put things in there that were successful. So, but those are some of the best days, especially if nobody got hurt.
Oh, absolutely. So you were buying drugs, and you're probably doing reverses where you're posed as a seller of drugs.
Yes.
If you can, because you mentioned this in your book, describe what that adrenaline rush is like.
Yeah, I tried to equate that to something. It's just like I said in the book, the hard part for me was if we were doing a deal and I knew, and we all knew that you were going to get arrested during that deal, then the hard part was having a normal conversation with you at the same time. We could be talking about sports, the drugs, the weather, women, whatever. All in your mind, you're trying to formulate a plan at the same time. When am I going to say the word that everybody's going to know it's time to arrest these guys? Or when am I going to say the word to know it's time for me to pull my weapon? So you have all that built up angst, inner angst, I would call it, inside of you. I'm looking at you saying, hey, how's the weather? And all the same time, I'm looking at your body language to see where's your hands, where's your gun? Because anytime you had large amounts of money or drugs, you always had guns. Every time you had guns. So you try to overplan everything to death to where nobody got hurt, to where the bad guys in their mind thought they didn't have a chance. But yeah, it was stressful.
And then when the deal's over, what about that dump that comes with it?
Yeah, it's hard to flip that switch off. We usually applied Bud Light or a Michelob Ultra or something. Sit around and rehash the situation. Talk about things people did right, but things people did wrong. We're all friends. Everybody had thick skin. I could take it if somebody thought I took a bad position. If we were going to knock a door down, I want everybody to know this is your assignment. We became a SWAT team by necessity, because at that time you had to do a lot of search warrants on the fly. So we became our own SWAT team.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you do the debrief, so you learn from any potential mistakes, so you don't make those same. I mean, That's what kills me. Like right now, it seems like in our country, we want to do away. We don't want to know about our Civil War history. And that is certainly an ugly, ugly part of the history of the United States. Yeah. I mean, geez, if you're in favor of slavery, go live somewhere else, please. But now we want to destroy all the memories of that history, like we're going to erase it out of the history books. But if you think about it, why do we study history to start with? It's to learn from our mistakes so we don't make the same stupid mistakes again. And that's what these debriefs are all about. You're thinking, hey, I just knocked this one out of the park, and the other guys are coming and saying, you were in the line of fire, or we couldn't see you, or your Cal unit went dead. You're acting like you're king shit out there. And
You took a bad position.
there's so many bad things that can happen out there. So to get that, you're getting input from everybody from different points of view just to keep you safe for the next time you're working undercover.
Yeah, absolutely. You had to. And I know some of my guys would get upset with me for over planning those arrest situations because I didn't want anybody to get hurt. We'd had a couple shoot at the car on the parking lot deal. The bad guys, the fight or flight. And a lot of them, if they're on a parking lot and they think they have a chance, if they could see daylight, they're going to take it. So you had to make sure that in their mind, they realized they didn't have any chance or any opportunities to get away, to keep the level of violence down.
And you know as well as I do, you get the young officers out there and you're going to do a search warrant. Everybody wants to be on that front door. And if you don't have people designated to go cover the back, that used to not surprise me, it shocked me, because the Colombian police would never send anybody around back, and they couldn't figure out why they couldn't catch these people. They eventually did. But to me, that's just standard operating procedure. But the point of that statement is, if you don't assign somebody and they go do the assignment to cover the back, you're going to have more problems.
We had a dry erase board to draw out the house and neighborhood, figure out where you're going to park, where you're going to go in, who's going to be on the ram. I always knew who was going to be on the ram. That was Jack Jordan. He was the strongest guy there from Nitro. It was a 200 or 300-pound ram. He could carry it up 4 flights of steps and still bang the door.
Holy
so
cow.
I knew he was going to be on the ram. Jack's on the ram. Who's going to be the first one through the door? Who's going to be the second one through the door? Who's going to shoot the dog? I hate to say that, but a lot of times people had pit bulls they want to put on you. So you had somebody signed to shoot the dog. Somebody had a submachine gun. Somebody had a shotgun. You had guys at the back door. So it just all had to be coordinated, and there couldn't be any hesitation. We had a big conversion van that we jumped out of. And when you put on that tactical vest, you were like Pavlov's dog. Your heart rate went up about 20 beats because those tactical vests are heavier than a regular bulletproof vest because they come down about mid-thigh, and your heart rate went up. And like I would tell everybody on the way, you got to get your mind right. You got to forget about your wife. You got to forget about your girlfriend. You got to forget about what's going on. We got to focus on the task at hand right now. What we're going to do, who's going to do what, and how this is how we're going to do it. And this is how we're going to come out of this with nobody getting hurt.
Right.
That's the important part.
There's not a drug dealer in the world that's worth any law enforcement professional even getting a hangnail.
No, and I've seen a lot of guys want to take a lot of unnecessary chances. I'll just call it that. No matter if you're doing a reversal or you're doing a buy on a big deal, if you're not in control, if you're not the person in control, then you give up your chances of getting hurt go up if you let the bad guy dictate the terms.
Yeah.
You had to be in charge. It didn't matter. Let him think he is, or let the perception was he was, but in his mind, but no, you're in charge.
And that's part of the art of working undercover.
Yeah, absolutely. It was.
Did any of your people ever get hurt in an operation?
Oh, we had a couple people get hurt. Yeah, we had one of my buddies we'd shot at a car. Of course, the bullets, when they come out of them guns, hit the tire and the ricochet hit one guy in the leg. Then we had a bad car chase after that. I got hurt. I had a guy in a headlock, and and he was a passenger in a car, and the driver pulled out a gun, shot at me. And then I was trying to hang on to the passenger. Then I dislocated my shoulder, then fell to the pavement. Then, of course, those guys went to hospital later, but that all worked out. There was a shooting at the Motel 6 where two guys shot at two of my guys and ended up exchanging about 70 rounds.
Wow.
And we had a big car chase. We were right there, had a big car chase. We shot out all the tires on their car, chased them about 20 miles. And during this chase, unfortunately, they ran off the road, killed a kid on a bicycle on purpose. And the chase went on for about 20 more miles. They were going down the road about 40 miles an hour with all four tires flat, with the rubber catching on fire. So that was a terrible day. It was the day before Thanksgiving, actually. So that made for a long day, a long night. We chased him over into Boone County, actually, and took him to the magistrate over there. And she set like $1 million cash bond on him, and we brought him back to Charleston. And they went to jail for a long time, about 40 years, I think.
State or fed?
Federal.
Yeah, and that's where they belong.
Yeah, we had some good federal prosecutors. We had some good state prosecutors when the mayor was, we ended up getting for cocaine. When he was prosecutor, he's probably the best prosecutor the county ever had. That's a crazy part of it, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to get into that in tomorrow's episode.
Sure.
And so we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today. Terry has agreed to join us for part 2 tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Please come back and join us then, because we're going to talk about some of the political challenges that they encountered. And here I was, a cop down the southern part of the state of West Virginia, and had no idea what was going on in Charleston. We knew the governor at a certain time, I think when I was in high school, had some legal issues, Hartsmore, but I had no idea of the things that you guys were going through up there in Charleston. So we're going to cover that tomorrow. Terry, thank you so much for today. Talking to a brother hillbilly is an honor for me. I appreciate you being on the show, and I'm looking forward to having you back tomorrow, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this and you haven't checked us out on YouTube yet, do me a favor and go over to YouTube, type in Game of Crimes Podcast in that search bar, hit the subscribe button, watch some of the episodes instead of just listening to it. You can get to see our guests here on the show every week. If you like the episode, hit the like button. And if you're up to it, send me your comments on there. I read most of them. I don't agree with all of them, but I do read them. So in the meantime, until you come back tomorrow, stay safe out there. God bless. We'll see you then.